Hello. We just finished reading and discussing Amy Tan's short story, Two Kinds. So what we want to do now is talk about the themes and the thematic statements that were found in the story. Let's review the idea of theme. You can think of a theme as a topic that can be expressed in one or two words. In any literature of literary merit, there should be multiple themes in the story. Once you've identified the themes in the story, you need to figure out what is the author's message about those themes or those topics. So the process for figuring out what a thematic statement is, the thematic statement being the author's message on a theme, on a topic, is to look into the story and think about how those themes played out for the characters in the story. However they played out for the characters in the story, you say to yourself, well, it worked out this way for these characters. If it worked out for them in this way, does it work out for people in real life in the same way? If it does, you have a thematic statement that has a universal, overarching meaning for all people. To do this assignment, you need to have the worksheet that I've prepared for you. Over here, under themes, you're going to list your one or two word topic. And here, you're going to write the thematic statement that has to do with a theme. If you don't have this worksheet, then what I need you to do is divide your paper in half. And on the left-hand side, I need you to write themes. And on the right-hand side, we need to write thematic statements. So let's look into the story, Two Kinds. Let's think about the characters and what happened to those characters. Who were the main characters? Well, they were Jing-mei and Jing-mei's mother. So we have a story about a mother and a daughter. Mother-daughter relationships are a huge theme in this story. So in the first bubble, you need to write mother-daughter relationships. That's the theme in the story. What went on between the mother and the daughter? Well, the mother wanted the daughter to become a prodigy. And the mother didn't really look for her child's natural gifts or what the child was interested in. She had very unrealistic expectations about what Jing-mei could do. So the second theme that we need to write on our paper is unrealistic expectations. The unrealistic expectations caused a lot of trauma and pain for Jing-mei. And at one point in the story, Jing-mei yells at her mother and says, "I'm not your slave. This isn't China. You can't make me do things." Jing-mei's mother was not an abusive mother. She was not trying to harm Jing-mei. Culturally, she was doing what was correct for her Chinese culture. She was doing tiger parenting. But Jing-mei had never lived in China. So they had a clash of cultures. So one of the topics is culture clashes. At the worst part of the conflict between Jing-mei and her mother, Jing-mei thought about a family secret that she really didn't know much about, but she knew that it was very, very painful for her mother. And so she decided that she could use the family secret as a weapon to hurt her mother. So another topic in the story is family secrets. At the beginning of the story, we learned that Jing-mei's mother believed in the American dream. She believed that if you dream it and you work hard enough to achieve it, your dream will come true. The American dream is a topic in the story. We know, not from the short story, but for looking at the first chapter of the Joy-Luck Club, which Two Kinds is a chapter in, that the mother came to America with good intentions. She had good intentions for her daughter. She said that in America, her daughter will not be judged by the loudness of her husband's belch. And she said that in America, her daughter would be too full to swallow sorrow. So good intentions is a topic that came up in the story. On your worksheet, you should have listed themes of mother-daughter relationships, unrealistic expectations, culture clashes, family secrets, American dream, and good intentions. You can look into the story and think about the things that happen to the characters and find other themes. These are just a few. So we've identified the themes, the topics that came up in the story. Now we need to look into the story and say, what happened to the characters around these themes? And I have a clock that's going to play you a little song. Well, that was timely. That little song gave us time to think. Let's think about the topic of mother-daughter relationships. We know that the mother-daughter relationship between Jingmei and her mother became one of conflict, and that there was a lot of pain involved in it. And in the short story, it tells us that the conflict that developed between Jingmei and her mother when Jingmei was only 9 carried into Jingmei's adulthood. Jingmei engaged in a power struggle with her mother when she was only 9. She knew that her mother wanted her to succeed, and she felt that if she succeeded, she was letting her mother win. And evidently, Jingmei continued to sabotage herself throughout her life to prevent her mother from winning. Do you suppose that there are other people that get into a power struggle with a parent when they're a child, and that the power struggle is damaging for the child, but they keep a pattern of behavior throughout their life that originated in that childhood power struggle, but they don't let go of it, and it causes them damage as an adult? If that's what happened in the story between Jingmei and her mother, can that happen to other real people? Well, of course it can. So how can we state that in a way that applies to all people? What if we said the quality of the mother-daughter relationship can have lifelong effects? You could write that as your thematic statement. The quality of the mother-daughter relationship can have lifelong effects. Jingmei's mother had unrealistic expectations. She thought that her daughter could do things that Jingmei had no interest in, no natural talent for, that were just not possible for her. What did Jingmei do to respond to her mother's unrealistic expectations? Well, at first, she tried very hard to meet them. And then she said when she saw the disappointment in her mother's eye, it just caused too much pain. And so what did she do? She rebelled. If unrealistic expectations caused Jean May to rebel. Does that happen to people in real life? Absolutely. So your thematic statement about the theme, unrealistic expectations, should be, unrealistic expectations can lead to rebellion. Jean May's mother thought that she was doing the best for her daughter. Jean May's mother was reared in China, and Chinese parents' expectations are very, very high for their children in China. And when the Chinese immigrate to America, they bring the same cultural expectations with them. That's why many Asian mothers are called tiger moms, because they have extremely high expectations for their children. They want their children to work very hard and to succeed. But Jean May says, you can't make me do this. This isn't China. I'm not your slave. She rebels. It was a clash of cultures that led to the painful conflict between Jean May and her mom. If that happened to them in the story, can that happen to real people? Absolutely. So we have a thematic statement. Culture clashes can lead to painful conflicts. Jean May's mother has kept a family secret. Jean May's mother has experienced a great deal of trauma in her life and a great deal of pain. And she's never told Jean May the entire story. Jean May's probably just heard whispering about 2 lost little babies that she thinks are dead. And then Jean May decides, when she's just at her wit's end with her mother's too high expectations, that she can take that family secret out and weaponize it. She can use it to pierce her mother's heart. In the story, the family secret led to a misunderstanding, and it was weaponized. If the family secret was used that way in the story, is it used that way in real life? Yes, sometimes it is. Your thematic statement, your author's message about family secrets is, family secrets can lead to misunderstandings that can be weaponized. Jean May's mother came here with the American dream. She believed that she would have a better life and that her daughter would have a better life in America. That's why all immigrants come here, to pursue the American dream. Jean May's mother worked very, very hard, and some things worked out for her that many of her dreams did not come true. One of them that did not come true is that her daughter did not succeed in the way she had hoped. So she worked very hard, but ultimately all of her dreams did not come true. If it worked for Jean May's mother like that, does it work for other people who pursue the American dream and yet it doesn't always work out the way they had dreamed it would? Our thematic statement should be, people can work very hard to achieve dreams that ultimately do not come to fruition. Let's think about Jean May's mother. She really did have good intentions. She probably wanted her daughter to be so successful that terrible things that had happened to her couldn't happen to her daughter. Jean May's mother is a complex character. There are some things that are true about her, yet the opposite is also true. Jingmei's mother had good intentions, yet she ended up damaging her child, hurting her daughter. Does that happen in real life? Sadly, yes. People have good intentions for their children, yet they end up hurting their children. Your thematic statement should be, mothers can have good intentions, yet end up hurting their children. So please complete this worksheet with the themes and the thematic statements that we've just discussed. And then you have a second sheet. So work with your group to identify some other themes that we did not just list, and talk about how those themes played out for the characters in the story. And then ask yourselves, if they played out that way for the characters in the story, could it work that way for real people in real life? And create a thematic statement for each of the themes that you come up with.